You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And tonight, Steph Curry reminded everyone who the world's greatest shooter is as the Golden State Warriors crushed the Philadelphia 76ers 139-103 at Chase Center. Curry drilled 8 three-pointers on 8 attempts. Just the 12th time in his career he shot 100% from deep, and the first time he's ever hit that many shots without a miss from three-point land in his career. His shooting was contagious as the Dubs made 22 of 39 three-point shots tonight. Steph also added 10 assists to his 30 points. Kuminga looked good off the bench. TJD had some nice minutes. This has to be the get-right game the Warriors were searching for. Or is it? We'll break it all down first. I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed and making us your first listen following these Warriors games. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Charlie Walter does a great job. And tonight, as I said, Steph just amazing from three-point land. We've been seeing some games from Steph lately, but tonight, man, he just reminds everybody who he is. His sixth 30-point game of the season, he has just been not the same. The knee injury this year has really limited him in certain days, but today, he looked phenomenal. He said post-game on TNT that he had a little bit of a thumb issue. We heard pregame that he was, his availability was in question, and look what happened. He spent part of New Year's in the MRI booth getting the thumb looked at. And he also said that sometimes maybe a small injury like that kind of helps you lock back in. So maybe this small little injury scare is what Steph needed to get back to his shooting stroke. Just amazing stuff from Steph Curry tonight. And before tonight, we just got an update earlier today on the All-Star game leading vote getters, and Steph was third place amongst guards. I have to think that after tonight, that number is going to increase substantially. He was just phenomenal tonight. Anyone who doubts that this guy still has it in the tank, he's got it in the tank. As I said, his sixth 30-point game of the season. The Warriors are 5-1 in those games, and all of them have come against teams that made the playoffs last season. The Sixers, the 7th seed in the East last year, and their one loss coming against the Los Angeles Lakers on Christmas. LeBron, was very good in that one. You remember the buzzer beater at from Austin Reeves at the last second. So that's the only game the Warriors have lost when Steph played this well. And Steph, for what it's worth, it's something that the Warriors desperately needed, and he talked about playing with a little bit more joy. He said post-game that, he really tried to infuse some extra oomph into that first three-point celebration. He was just not happy with the way that the Warriors have been playing lately. He said that there needed to be more joy amongst the locker room, amongst the Warriors during games. And so he really tried to overemphasize the celebration after that first three to try and get the team into it, to try and get the crowd into it. And I think it worked. The shooting is contagious. We know that. And we got to talk about not just what Steph did, but what the rest of this team did as well. Steph had 10 assists tonight, and that's by, no coincidence that the rest of the team was hitting a ton of three-pointers tonight as well. And overall, 41 assists for the Warriors on 53 made baskets. So that's a phenomenal assist to made bucket ratio for the Warriors. And Steph with 10 of them. A lot of those came on offensive circulations where he'd get double teamed, or closeouts happen after the Sixers had a terrible defensive rotation tonight. But on the off chance that they actually did rotate out to Steph and get a hand up, he would kick that ball out. And other Warriors were making shots. Almost every other Warrior who took a three made one tonight. The only guy who didn't make one that took one is our guy Guy Santos, who only played 8 minutes tonight. Everyone else who took a shot from deep, it went in for the Warriors. And it was just a great night for a lot of Warriors from deep. But one guy I wanted to highlight specifically is Dennis Schroeder, because he has not played the same type of basketball that we saw from him when he was on the Brooklyn Nets earlier this season. Don't forget, he gave the Warriors a 30-burger of his own earlier this year, and he had been shooting career highs from three, from the floor, and all sorts of great offensive success for Schroeder before coming to the Warriors. Came into Golden State and had a little bit of hard time acclimating to the system, not doing as much high pick and roll as he normally did in Brooklyn, doing a little bit different stuff here. But the Warriors, to their credit, to Steve Kerr's credit, gave him a few more of those high pick and roll opportunities with Trayce Jackson-Davis tonight against a slower defender like Joel Embiid, putting him in that high pick and roll situation. And it worked out. Schroeder did very good off those plays. He also hit 3 of 3 from three-point range in that first quarter. So he got out to a pretty hot offensive start. And I thought that was a good thing for the Warriors because, I mean, the rest of this team, they really should have ballooned this lead way bigger than they did in that first quarter with how awful the Sixers started this game. They could not buy a bucket. They were also turning the ball over nonstop. They kind of stopped the turnovers in the second half, the Sixers did, but it didn't really matter at that point. Warriors were just shooting the lights out. We're running away with this one. But Sixers, I mean, they are just a bad team, man. Like, this team is underachieving maybe more than any other team in the NBA this season with Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid, their big three, just not clicking. And this offense looks one-dimensional and just stale. Paul George does not look like he really fits in here anywhere. I mean, 19 points on 7 of 12 shooting isn't a bad night, but I mean, the minus 26 plus minus, it seems like some of these points are just hollow points coming in situations where you need a lot more than what you're getting. You need it earlier in the game. You know, Paul George is doing a lot of this when the scoring's already, you know, what it is, and the game's kind of out of reach. But the Sixers, just not a good team this year, man. 13-19 on the season for the Sixers, dramatically underachieving for what was expected of them. But this was kind of what the Warriors had needed to do for a while. This offense has been clunky. It's been not really flowing, and the Warriors haven't looked like themselves. The three ball has not been falling at all lately. And in the last couple of weeks, like, the Warriors are like 4-13 in their last 17 games, something like that. So, I mean, they've been down bad. They really needed a win, and they really needed the offense to show up and play because the defense hasn't gone anywhere. The defense, again, shows up tonight, only giving up 105 points in 42% shooting from the field and less than 30% shooting from three-point land for the Sixers, just 29% for the Philadelphia 76ers from deep tonight. So the Warriors defense doing what it does, stepping up yet again, making some good plays. But I mean, the offense tonight, really, really the story for the Warriors. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different guys in double figures. Moses Moody had some great minutes tonight, even though, again, not enough minutes for my guy Moses Moody. Only 15 minutes in this blowout for him. I mean, he 4 of 5 from deep. This guy came out of the gates just stroking it from deep. I still think Moses needs some more minutes in this rotation. We also had Lindy Waters III hitting some threes tonight, a couple threes from him, and 10 points off the bench. Jonathan Kuminga leading the way off the bench with 20 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists. So Kuminga, a great night, efficient 20 points as well on 8 of 11 shooting. Made a couple threes, Kuminga did. So, I mean, again, a really complete top to bottom team win. We didn't even get into Trayce Jackson-Davis's minutes yet. I mean, he was phenomenal, I thought, early on against Embiid, really making Embiid work and run. The way TJD sprints the floor, really putting the pressure on Embiid to, you know, do some work and getting that big body moving. He's a guy who's not been in very good shape in recent years, and in this year especially. It's been one of the main criticisms of Joel Embiid is that his physical is not what it needs to be. His conditioning is not what it needs to be. And TJD, give him credit, man. The young guy just pushed him and just running. And what he might lack in just pure talent compared to Joel Embiid, made up for it tonight with that grit and with that effort and with the hustle. I mean, he really made Embiid work, and you see what the effects of it. I mean, 8 of 19 from the floor is, especially when almost all of those shots are coming close to the bucket, is pretty solid defense. And I mean, he did make more shots in the second half, Embiid did, but the first half, I mean, he was really putting the clamps on him, I felt like, on defense. Embiid did a good job of getting to the line consistently throughout tonight, though. And TJD, I mean, I just really thought that he did a good job holding his own against a former MVP, against a guy who has been one of the dominant centers in this league for the last decade or so. Joel Embiid, even though he's had his ups and downs in his career, and if you ask Sixers fans, he might not be their most favorite superstar that's ever played in the city of Philadelphia. Still, he's been a very solid player. And TJD, a second-round pick for the Warriors last year, and he's delivered in such a big way for this team. Every step of the way, TJD has given you something. There's no point in time where this guy has looked unplayable or looked like he was just not a fit on this team. He's constantly looked like there's a role for him. And again, 21 minutes tonight. He got some good run against one of the best players at his position in the NBA. Another big step forward for Trayce Jackson-Davis in this one. And that's great. The Warriors need to continue to see this from everybody else. Like Steph having 30 points and going 8 for 8 from 3 is obviously the number one story in this game tonight. But everybody else, like I said, 6 other Warriors, 7 total, scoring in double figures. It's a big deal. Like the Warriors needing Dennis Schroeder to get going from deep, that's a big deal. Andrew Wiggins getting back into some efficient scoring, that's a big deal as well. All these things continuing to happen. Jonathan Kuminga continuing to take steps forward and develop in this Warriors system. I saw some more good things tonight from him in his development, in his decision-making. We can get into that a little bit later on. But the Warriors tonight, I thought this was a very, very, very solid game. But is it a get-right game? Is this the game that makes you say the Warriors are back, they've turned a corner, Steph's rolling, this offense is back and humming, Steve Kerr has figured out a way to fit Dennis Schroeder into the system, and here we go. The Warriors are going to start winning games. Is that the case? Let's break it down next on the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. Today's show is sponsored by Gametime. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. I went to go see the Dead & Company. It was amazing. The energy and excitement were unforgettable at the Sphere. We got the tickets via Gametime, and now Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming Warriors game. Obviously, what else am I looking for tickets for this time of year? Using the Gametime app, and with Gametime Picks, I found an amazing deal and could even see the view from my seat before buying. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight the Warriors beat the brakes off the Philadelphia 76ers, 139-105. Steph, a three-point barrage, 8 of 8 from 3. The first time he has ever made that many threes without missing in an NBA game. The record was 9 for 9, and Brian Anderson during this game was trying to will Steph to shoot one more and splash it in to tie that record. Steph was 11 for 15 from the field and had 30 total points on the night. Great game from Steph. This offense is finally rolling, looking like it used to look, 3-ball flying. You had a ton of assists, 41 assists on 53 made baskets. That is just exactly what you want to see from this offense. But is this a sign that the Warriors are back, that the Warriors are ready to go, ready to hit that fifth gear and fly on offense? I'm going to go ahead and say no. I need to see more, because tonight they played a team, the Philadelphia 76ers, that just looks awful. And coming into tonight, the Sixers were 7-3 in their last 10 games, and I thought that was something noteworthy, because I thought that maybe that meant that this team — I have not watched a ton of Sixers ball this year. I'll confess, I'm not tuning in every night to go see Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in whatever the hell they're doing out there in Philadelphia with Nick Nurse, and why this team's been bad. They're 13-19. They're dramatically underachieving. And defensively, this team looks like they're lost in a forest, man. Guys just standing around. Defensive rotations just look abysmal. You have 2-3 guys huddling around one dude that doesn't even have the basketball. I don't even know what is happening on the 76ers team defensively. If Jerry Stackhouse was their defensive coach like he is for the Warriors, they would be getting just Fs across the board. There's a grade lower than F. Give it to them. I mean, that's just terrible. Just awful defense by the 76ers. And their offense did not look very creative either. One-dimensional on offense, really, in half-court sets. It was either, let Paul George go into an ISO against somebody on the wing, or throw it into the post and let Joel Embiid try to go to work one-on-one with somebody in the post. Not a lot of ball movement. Tyrese Maxey, if he wasn't able to get something going in the transition game, didn't really seem too involved in these offensive sets, not nearly involved enough. Just 4 of 13 on the night for Maxey, 14 points. He did have a lot of misses on those layups in transition, but give the Warriors defense credit. I mean, they were the reason he missed those buckets is because he had to beat the Warriors back down the court. And although this is one of the fastest players in the NBA, Tyrese Maxey, I've been enthralled with this guy since I saw him play back when he was still in high school at the Nike Hoop Summit up in Portland, Oregon. And this guy gave everybody the work then, back when, that was the Joel Embiid, not Joel Embiid, excuse me, the James Wiseman incoming high school class. So I saw him play in that game as well. And the guy who stood out the most to me of all of those, it's like, for those of you who don't know what the Nike Hoop Summit is, it's like an all-star game for all the best incoming college freshmen. And Tyrese Maxey outshined everybody back then. He played great in his college career, thus earning his way onto the 76ers. And he's been an all-star caliber guy for them since he's been in this organization. And tonight, he just didn't really have it. But credit the Warriors defense, because the reason he didn't have it is they beat him back on defense over and over and over again. And that was a big difference in this one. But conversely, the other side of that coin, the Sixers could not get back on defense to save their life. They would make a bucket. The Warriors would be, just going on the break off a made bucket. You cannot let other teams do that to you in the NBA, and the Sixers just let it happen over and over and over again. The Warriors throwing those touchdown passes all night long. And the Sixers just looked terrible. I mean, this defense looked lazy, out of sorts, uninterested. I mean, just bad, disjointed, whatever word you want to use. That's what the 76ers were. And so because of that, I don't think that this was a get-right game for the Warriors. I need them to start beating up on some teams that made the playoffs last year. And I don't mean teams like the 76ers who made the playoffs last year and have been relatively bad this year. You got the Grizzlies coming up next. If you can replicate this kind of performance against the Grizzlies, I don't mean Steph needs to go 8 of 8 from 3, but I mean the everything else, like the rest of the team hitting threes, everybody else contributing, pitching in. I don't know if that will happen against a team like the Grizzlies, who have been really good defensively this year. One of the best teams in the NBA, kind of a surprise for a lot of people, I think. The Grizzlies really playing some great ball this year, and the Warriors have played them a lot so far this season. They just lost to them recently, back on just last a couple weeks ago. And so the Warriors, they need to prove that they can beat a team like the Memphis Grizzlies. Last time they went out, they lost 144-93. So I want to see the Warriors beat a team like that. I don't want to see them just go out there and slug the 76ers and just deliver haymaker after haymaker. And I mean, I do want to see that. You know what I mean? I want to see a win. A Warriors win is always good when you're struggling to pick up wins in recent weeks. But I want to see them start winning against good teams. And so the win keeps you safe from falling completely out of the playoff race right now. We are talking playoff race, and they are the 10 seed. And the reason that that's important is because last year they had so much ground to make up in the second half of the season after the All-Star break that it just became insurmountable. Now, if you can already start the second half in the playoff mix, you can maybe push your way out of the play-in and into the actual playoffs, but that's going to be a long way to go. You're just looking up at the Spurs, the Timberwolves, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Mavericks, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Grizzlies, and the Thunder. And that's going to be tough for the Warriors to find a way to overcome, really any of those teams. Maybe they can catch the Spurs. They're tied with them right now, 17-16, both teams tied for that 9th spot. Actually, they're tied for the 8th spot with the Minnesota Timberwolves. All 3 of those teams bunched up right there. So the margins are really close. The Suns right behind at 15-17. So the margins are really close right now. And you don't want to fall behind in these playoff standings too far. The Warriors free falling really early, just within these last few weeks. They were towards the top of the standings, vying with OKC for that number 1 spot, but really just fell out of those standings in recent weeks. This is the first big like blowout win in like a month and a half since they played the Hawks back in November. And I mean, this is really a big deal for the Warriors. I think a game like this can help you start to, maybe feel something a bit different. And although like I said, I need to see it against some other teams like the Grizzlies and things like that for who are coming up next for me to be completely convinced that the Warriors are back. I think that this can maybe be the start of something. So the one thing I do want to say that did encourage me that this could maybe be the start of something, and maybe I should change my mind on how I feel about this, is Steph saying what he said post-game, that maybe a little injury like he had to his thumb can just make you lock in and get you back to where you need to be. And talking about how he's intentionally infusing joy into his celebrations to kind of get everybody else going. If both these things continue to happen, if Steph really is a little bit more locked in now since this little thumb thing, that's going to be bad news for the rest of the league, because if Steph starts to really feel it again, then we're back, baby. But I mean, the Warriors got to, again, prove it that they can do it against a good team like the Memphis Grizzlies, who are on deck next for the Warriors. So we'll see if they can do that coming up next. But in order to do that, they're going to have contributions from everybody. And one guy that they need to get contributions from, we talk about him every show. So how are we not going to get through a Warriors postcast without talking about my guy, Jonathan Kuminga, and more of his development? I mean, tonight we saw some more, big brain plays from Kuminga down there off the pick and roll. We got to talk about it next and what that means for the Warriors on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. I'm all over those money lines, all over the against the spread. That's usually where I'm living. It's been the best part of most of my Sundays with how disappointing the 49ers have been this season, if I'm being honest. And not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score touchdowns, how many points each team will score hitting those over-unders, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and thanks for making us your first listen following these Warriors games. Make sure you're checking out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show with Charlie Walter for more in-depth coverage. My guy Charlie does a great job breaking down all those bigger storylines with the Dubs. But on the postcast, we got to get into some of the minutia from the game. And today, some of the minutia I want to get into, Jonathan Kuminga, man, I think his IQ, I know people get tired of talking about this, but it's important. And it is an issue. We've seen that it's an issue. Like his mental development in the game has improved, but it's got to keep improving from where it's at. It's not, completely crafted yet. You heard Reggie Miller on the broadcast talking tonight about how he's got to get better at his angles and how he relies on his pure, like natural scoring talent. And Reggie Miller, I think, called him an unpolished scorer, I think was the words that he used. And that's very true. Like, this guy's just so athletic and so good at putting the ball in the basket just instinctually that sometimes he leans on that a little too much and the IQ stuff kind of falls away. But tonight, one play that I saw that really stood out to me was in the pick and roll. And earlier, I think it was the second quarter, he gets in the pick and roll with Steph, and he just makes this little handoff to Kuminga as he's, he gets the double team, and Kuminga was not that far from the rim, maybe like 15 feet from the rim. So he didn't have a whole lot of room to work with. He takes a little dump off from Steph after he rolls aggressively to the rim off the pick and roll after his defender followed Steph. And Kuminga goes up for the layup and is met with pretty tough defense inside. And he makes the smart play and dumps it off to Lindy, who was waiting in the paint, Lindy Waters III, and makes a nice, easy layup. Need more stuff like that from Jonathan Kuminga. But again, I thought that was a very telling sign that his decision-making is continuing to get better. I think in games past, he doesn't really expect that pass to come in the way that it did, as hot as it did, but good hands, even though it was a quick little dump off from Steph, took the ball hard to the rim with that aggression. Even though he was met with the tough defense, he didn't already make up his mind that he was just going to try and run through the wall to get to the rim. He knew what if he needed to adapt. He had Lindy Waters as his little outlet right there, as his emergency little dump off, and he utilized it. 2 points for the Warriors. And again, it's stuff like that that really shows that this guy's IQ is improving. I do need to still see that help defense improve. He is not very good, especially on the baseline at sliding over and helping out his teammates when they're getting worked on the other side of the paint. And I need to see something more from Kuminga on that side. The Warriors are not a big team. They're not going to be able to just take guys one-on-one in the paint too often. You're going to need to send that help defense, and Kuminga needs to be a little bit better about picking and choosing when he slides over there to help. When he does it, it's sometimes questionable in situations when he doesn't need to. More often than not, though, I think it's just him not sliding over when he actually does need to. Although I get in certain situations why he doesn't want to leave the defenders he's on, because he's playing against a lot of really strong wings out in the West. You don't want to leave those guys open. So, I mean, I get it. But again, Jonathan Kuminga showing some development in that basketball IQ category with that, the little pick and roll move. And I think that the more you get him able to play that style of basketball, the more it's going to open up stuff for the Warriors. Again, we talked about last show, the pick and roll with Dennis Schroeder and TJD needing to be developed and expanded. And we saw that a little bit tonight. The layup or the alley-oops from Draymond to Jonathan Kuminga in similar pick and roll situations have become a staple of this offense at this point. All those situations are just going to open up shots from three-point land more. And when you make them, things like this happen. 139 to 105 tonight for the Warriors over the 76ers. The offense clicking on all cylinders. Jonathan Kuminga pitching in 20 points off the bench. Steph with a 30-burger on 8 of 8 from three-point land. Everybody contributed. Everybody did something tonight. TJD, even though it doesn't show up in the box score, had a phenomenal night, making Joel Embiid just work constantly, sprinting the floor and really wearing out that the Sixers big man. It had an impact on tonight's game for sure. I mean, you could see Joel Embiid constantly with the hands on the hips and the heavy breathing. He just looked tired. Credit TJD for wearing him out, even though it doesn't show up in the box score. TJD just 1 for 5 from the floor, only 3 points, but plus 14 in that plus minus category. Some big minutes from him tonight. But Steph is the story. I mean, unreal night from Stephen Curry. He was only third place in NBA All-Star Game votes coming into tonight's game. So maybe we need to bump that up. Those are rookie numbers. We got to bump those up, man. Get Steph Curry into the All-Star Game as a starter. He proved to you tonight why he still deserves that title, that role. It doesn't matter that he's in age 36 season. He needs to be an All-Star Game starter, the best shooter that the NBA has ever seen, the best shooter the world has ever seen. This guy changed the NBA with how great he is and in the way that he plays this game. I mean, how many kids now just want a 30 jersey and just go out there and want to do all the dribble moves and chuck it up from three and just, logo threes and all that. And it's games like this that make kids want to do that make kids watch 30 and go, that's what I want to do with the basketball in my hands. I mean, that just everything on display tonight from Steph. The dribble moves, the shooting, off the dribble, off the catch, off the screens, from deep, way, way, way deep. I mean, he had that heat check, I think, for his 7th three after he came in that fourth quarter, and he drilled those 2 more threes. The first one was just ridiculous. So Steph, and then he banked one in tonight too. This guy just couldn't miss. Absolutely could not miss. So, tonight is Steph's night. Go vote for him to get him into the All-Star Game as a starter. And hopefully the Warriors can take some of this momentum into their next game against the Memphis Grizzlies, who just absolutely annihilated them last time by 50 points. So let's see this offense duplicate some of this success against the Memphis Grizzlies next time. That's my challenge for the Golden State Warriors. That's what I want to see. With the win, they're 17-16, 9-8 at home, so just barely got above 500. Let's see if they can stave off that gravitational pull of 500 for just a little bit. Let's see if we can gain a few more games on that 500 record. So we'll see if the Warriors can start piecing some wins together. Maybe this is a turning point. I still need to see more evidence that it actually is before I'm convinced. So it's all the time we got for you guys today on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Thanks for tuning in, making us your first listen following these Dubs games. Shout out to all the everydayers tuning in. Daniel, my guy, always saying what's up in the chat. one of my favorite everydayers. I can always count on Daniel to tune into the show. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.